Good morning, Bucknutters. It is Tuesday, January 24th, 2017. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and change. No, it is not Thursday. Yes, we do have Steve Wiltfong, Director of Recruiting for 24/7 Sports. Dwayne Long is under the weather, so we have flipped the script this week. Steve, what's it like to be on the Bucknuts Morning 5 on a Tuesday?
Well, it's big shoes to fill, as Dwayne always brings such a great analysis to whatever he's talking about. I'm going to try and do my best here to give you a good show.
You are fighting an uphill battle. I'm not going to lie, but I digress. All right, here we are in the stretch run. A little more than a week to signing day, and we have the Director of Recruiting for 24/7 Sports here, so let's do an inventory. First, two names that have been discussed on this show plenty. Defensive tackles Marvin Wilson and Jay Tufele. I have officially given up on both. I have to admit, I don't even really follow them anymore because I don't want to have my heart broken by another defensive tackle late in the game. Am I being a scorned lover, or do they have a chance?
I'd be surprised if either were in the class. I thought there was some momentum with Ohio State for a while and had them in the top two. Talking with Bill Kurlick and others that talked to him at the U.S. Army All-America Bowl, the pulse was Utah or Ohio State. I think that USC made a major move with Jay Tufele over the weekend with their official visit. USC also landed one of Jay's buddies in Marlon Tuipulotu, flipping him from Washington. They both officialed together, talking to USC sources. I think they think they're very much in it for Jay, and it's USC or Utah for him, but we'll see what happens. Obviously, Ohio State will continue to recruit him to the end. Then you have Marvin, who I've been consistent in saying that I think that's LSU or Florida State. If Ohio State was closer to home, perhaps they would have more of a shot. I will say that Marvin's game experience for the Ohio State-Michigan game, I don't think he had anything like that anywhere else. I think he does genuinely like the Buckeyes and the idea of playing for Urban Meyer and Larry Johnson. I think that's real, but I don't know if they can get over the hump and beat the other two.
So it seems to me that Wilson kind of enjoys the social media part of the recruiting game, so his tweets or whatever about loving Ohio State and the fact that Jeffrey Okudah and Barrett Browning are there and the Texans and such, you don't think that has a chance for them to pull it out in the end, unfortunately?
Well, I think he genuinely believes what he's tweeting, but yeah, he's a young man that these kids like the attention, but then they'll tweet no interviews, you know?
I know.
And that's fine. No interview. Hey, I'm good with that. I don't talk to many kids that often I've made it to where I don't have to as much, so it's fine with me. I just always find it funny when they do that, when it's, you know, if it wasn't for the recruiting media, you know, there wouldn't be all this branding, you know, for you. So I always get a chuckle when they say no interviews. So I always pick one or two guys you like and give them what they need, and you know, it is what it is. But they're young, and they're just having fun, and they don't know anybody anything.
Let's talk about who we think will be in the class. The only name, to me, that I get a positive vibe on right now, Thayer Mumford, the offensive lineman from Northeast Ohio. What's your vibe?
Well, obviously, I was late to the crystal ball party, throwing mine in 2 days ago, but I wanted to wait till he got the offer just to be sure. When I heard that he got it, it was a no-brainer pick. I think he's a done deal to Ohio State. It's just a matter of when he wants to announce his college intentions. And I think he's a terrific prospect. He's a mammoth of a young man, and he's a good athlete. And I've seen him in camp a couple times, including Friday Night Lights, and thought he was really good. And you just talk about Ohio State's board. It's different than everybody else's board. And I had this conversation with a couple people, maybe including you, but Ohio State, when they moved down their list of guys they're offering, they're A-list guys for everybody else. And so it just, the power of Ohio State, one, how fantastic the coaching staff is in getting their message across to a young man of why they're offering now, and them being fine with it is also tremendous. And then obviously the track record of developing young men into NFL players and having the opportunity to compete for a championship every year. There's only two schools, and maybe you can say Clemson right now, but they gotta do it. They gotta do it another year for me to say them. Alabama and Ohio State, you're always in the playoff hunt. They're the only two schools that can say it. Now, there's other schools that are good, but if you go to Ohio State or you go to Alabama, you got a chance to play for all the marbles. It's just a fact. So all those things add up for a guy like Darren Munford, who's also an in-state kid. So you add that log to the fire, and it looks good.
I've said this ad nauseum. By the way, for those keeping score, that's second use of ad nauseum. To me, it's Ohio State, Alabama, and everybody else. Maybe you could flip the order. And the two things, you mentioned one of them. The key is they always have a shot to get to the playoffs. And two, those kids who come to Ohio State and Alabama are headed straight for the NFL. And that has become very obvious to anyone who's perused anything Mel Kiper or anyone like that has come out with recently. So there you have it. Another guy that's still in the mix, although I really have a feeling all this discussion is futile, is Oliver Martin, receiver from Iowa. We talked about him a lot. You described him to the peeps last week. Let's just bring an update here on the recruiting. I know Harbaugh's involved. D'Antonio wants him. Notre Dame wants him. What's your latest on Ollie?
Well, Oliver was supposed to take his official visit to Ohio State this past weekend after getting Urban Meyer at home last Thursday. And by the time they made the decision to visit Ohio State, there were no flights available for 3 seats to get out of Iowa City to get to Columbus that Friday. So they booked it for first thing in the morning on Saturday. And for whatever reason, that flight was delayed. It ended up pushing the Martins to Sunday, so they just decided to scratch it. And they could visit this coming weekend. It's not 100% locked in, but I do think they're leaning towards visiting Ohio State now. The original plan was to get to Ohio State last weekend and Michigan this weekend. Jim Harbaugh is going to go in home with Oliver Martin on Wednesday. Obviously, he's going to push for Oliver to get back to Ann Arbor over the weekend. Ohio State's going to be back on Thursday and spend most of the day in Iowa City. I will say that talking to people around Oliver, no program is recruiting him harder right now than Ohio State. Are you surprised? When they want a guy, they know how to turn it up, and they have multiple guys involved in this recruitment of Oliver Martin. I know Zach Smith's involved. I'm going to assume Kevin Wilson. I know Urban's involved. There's another coach. I'm not sure who it is, but there's 4 guys from Ohio State that have been in contact with the Martin camp since Oliver has jumped on the radar. Urban Meyer went in home last week and almost, really said this isn't the way we like to recruit. We like to know a kid for a year, but we're here now. We think he can be a difference maker. Here's our track record at receiver. And he came across as really genuine to Oliver's family, and Zach has too. Oh yeah, Mark Pantoni's probably the 4th. What the hell am I thinking? Because I know they've had contact with Mark as well. So it's been a collective effort to get in the race, and if they get Oliver to campus, I know Oliver, who has liked Notre Dame the whole time, he's liked Michigan the whole time, and he's liked Michigan State. With that being said, he has not been on a visit yet where he has just said this is the place. So maybe if he gets to Ohio State, maybe that can happen.
So you're telling me there's a chance? Yeah!
And then obviously, and I'll say it again, there was a good debate on the front row. This is a guy that tested way better than what he looks like. And this is not a PC show, so we don't have to be PC. And in our business, we have done a horrendous, our business and college recruiters have done a bad job of identifying the next great white receiver. As you see guys like Jordy Nelson and those cats pop up and they weren't highly recruited, and they obviously should have been in hindsight. We're taking our swing and saying this is the white receiver that should have been highly recruited, and he kind of is now. And this is the guy that's going to make it to the league and be really good because he's almost 6'1", 190. He's thick. I mean, he's a good-looking athlete. We're taking our swing on this kid, and we think he's really good, and he's tested well, and he's a fantastic three-sport athlete. Dan, you and I know a lot of guys that make it to the NFL, they were great multi-sport athletes in high school.
Oh, yeah. Well, to me, a lot of it is the talent flattens out, excuse me, when you get to this level. So the guys who are mentally fit, get to the best program, and are prepared best for the league, have a great chance to make it. We'll see if Oliver can channel his inner Brian Finneran and get himself to the league. So your vibes then down the stretch, let's say Oliver's a maybe at best. Thayer Mumford is in. What do you think Ohio State's view is now in terms of another surprise guy? We've talked about this for a while. Do you think there's a chance for it?
Well, absolutely, because I think that if they have a spot, they'll try and fill it with a quality guy. And the brand speaks so loudly that they could get a late guy, and you pull up past commitment lists, and I want to, they've been good for a late flip or two in their time. I pull up the 2014 class, and didn't they flipped someone late for Michigan State? Was that the Darius Slade year? I think
it was. Darius Slade was a late ad. Yep.
Yeah. So they can go and do something like that every year. Go get someone later, win a late battle. KJ Hill was a guy that Arkansas thought was coming to them, and then I'll never forget. That was a fun one on signing day where I was talking to Ohio State source, and they said they thought they were getting KJ Hill, and I talked to Otis Kirk, who runs our Arkansas site, and I'm like, the buzz says KJ Hill to Arkansas, and he's like, no way, he's going to Arkansas, and then following back up, and the Ohio State source is saying that would surprise us, and then Otis throwing in the towel right before it happened. Those are big wins.
We'll keep our eyes peeled. If it's going to happen, you'll find out about it here. Have a good one, Bucknutters. You'll have Dwayne on Thursday.
Appreciate it.